Now, my next buy is probably a pretty common buy. Doing research and trying to get some statistics, you come across a lot. I've seen multiple other people say out there, go buy this player, but I said it. I think I said when we were talking about this player, Diontae Johnson, like a month or so ago, Garrett, I think you and I were talking, I was like on a podcast, I was like, is Diontae Johnson like one of the best values in Dynasty right now? And you're like, probably. And looking into him, he still got the youth. He was wide receiver 8 overall in 2021, right? That was the year he averaged 17.2 points per game. And then negative regression happened in 22, where he finished as wide receiver 41 and only averaged 10.8 points per game. But he's still only 26 years old. He's probably one of the premier route runners in the league right now. Last year was just a bad situation with a rookie quarterback, a bad offensive line. You had Mitch Trubisky coming there at times. So, the biggest stat you have with Diontae Johnson is the guy didn't score any touchdowns. The closest he came was the very last week 18 versus the Browns. He went down at the half-yard line, and he got so close. So his 844 receiving yards, if you just add a couple more touchdowns, say you give him 5 touchdowns, which is pretty average, right? Like he did that before. I think he had 7 in 22. He's a top 30 receiver just with those bad stats alone. And you got to expect that this offense is going to be better in 23. They have to get the offensive line better to protect their rookie quarterback. They got Najee Harris. They got George Pickens, who'd be going to year 2. You got Diontae Johnson. They'll probably draft the receiver because that's what they do. And they got Pat Freiermuth. I expect this offense to get significantly better. Diontae Johnson, when you look at all these analytic metrics about, getting open, Diontae Johnson ranks at the top. He's in the top 7 when it comes to getting open, when it comes to those metrics. When you're looking at Buddy making the big catches, Diontae Johnson can do that. And I know they had George Pickens there as well, who could do that. But Johnson, who averaged 5.6 receptions and 51.88 yards in 2022, that's nothing where he did in 21. I mean, he averaged 7 catches for 72 yards in that game. And even though there's a big stink about, Matt Canada, he's been really good for him. He's been a target hog. And like I mentioned, last year, he set a record for most targets all time with no touchdowns with 147. His 147 targets were tied for the 7th most in the NFL with Garrett Wilson. And if you would have had 5 more targets, he would have been 5th overall. I think Travis Kelce was ahead of him by just a couple, and I can't remember the next guy, but he was literally within 10 targets of being 5th overall in the NFL in targets. And Matt Canada has been real nice with when it comes to Diontae Johnson. So Matt Canada so far is given target counts of 144, 169, and then of course last year 147. So with Matt Canada coming back and still calling plays there, this is somebody that you could count on still seeing a heavy target share with a quarterback who's going to go into his second year of the NFL, which usually we see these quarterbacks take a step forward. So in 2023, you should see positive regression for Diontae Johnson. 1 touchdown is 1 step in the right direction by 6 points. I expect Diontae Johnson to get back to that 5 to 6 touchdown range and get back to that high-end wide receiver 2 category, where a lot of people in your dynasty league are going to be focused on George Pickens, and rightfully so. He showed us a lot last year. But if you're looking for, when I look at players that I want to target in dynasty and I look for long-term success over time, I'm looking for the best route runners in the NFL. Guys that can get open by themselves. The guys that don't need to be schemed open. It doesn't matter who the defensive back is. Those are the players I want. It's why Jerry Jeudy took a big step forward this year, and Sean Payton should be a big help for him. It's why we love Devontae Smith so much coming out of Alabama that year. And people were talking about we were crazy. We had him higher than Jamar Chase. And yes, that was a mistake, having him higher than Jamar Chase. But even when Devontae Smith was down, we were still building him back up. And he prized us with the top 8 overall finish in PPR. And Diontae Johnson is that kind of receiver, a very savvy route runner that knows how to get open. And players like him for the next 3 to 4 years will consistently find success because they're going to see the target share and then produce. And I think it was just one of those bad years, kind of like what we talked about with Russell Wilson. And it's on us as dynasty owners to find that window to capitalize. If I could get Diontae Johnson for a high second, I'd be all over that. If my receiving core was needy, I'd have no problem giving a late first for Diontae Johnson as well. I bought him for a late first last year when he was doing that so good. I have zero regrets because I do look for that bounce back year. I think he's a great buy low candidate. He's 26, still not even entering his prime yet. With what we just need to see a little bit more out of Kenny Pickett, and then he should be in a good position. So Diontae Johnson, I think, is a fantastic buy in your dynasty leagues right now. And it might not even take a first to get him, a couple seconds, or maybe there's a player that you want to offload that can get you DJ in return.
Yeah, and you look at his contract a little bit. He's probably tied to them this year. So the dead money is around 19 million. His cap hits at 16. So I do anticipate him staying for at least this year there in Pittsburgh. I wasn't sure about the Matt Canada. Have they made like an official announcement that he was staying? Okay. Yeah. So that's good. That's good news because I do think he likes Diontae Johnson and knows his value. So this is probably a good time to use the George Pickens hype to go ahead and get the other guy on the team. I do like that as a strategy because Diontae Johnson is likely to match his numbers, if not better, George Pickens' numbers next year, and you could definitely get him cheaper than you can Pickens right now. So that makes him a very nice value. And, you just don't expect too much. He's not going to be a wide receiver 1. He's going to be a mid-tier wide receiver 2 type of guy, I think. And that's kind of where he's at right now. But at 26 years old, at that kind of value where you're just giving up like a mid-second, I think that's pretty decent. And you're getting a lot of bang for your buck there. You're getting consistency too. He's going to be getting a lot of targets. Like you said, this year was pretty weird that he just didn't get any touchdowns. I do think he'll have a bounce back year just from respect and some sort of normalization, even if it's 3 or 4, that's a boost and that'll get you up the overall rankings at the end of the season as well. So I think that's, he's a nice player. Absolutely.
Yeah. The mid-tier wide receiver 2 is a championship caliber player. You'll hear some players in your leagues like, oh, he's a wide receiver 2. That's a championship caliber player. That's the kind of player you can build around, especially if you can slide Diontae Johnson to your wide receiver 3 slot. It's even better. But listen, there's only 12 wide receiver 1s out there. So if you get your hands on a couple wide receiver 2s and you build the right team around them, that's a championship caliber player.
I am with you as long as I'm giving up the second. I would be a tad bit nervous on the first, not because I don't believe in Diontae Johnson as the player. It's the offense that I'm not sold on. Kenny Pickett didn't do anything to wow me this year. That offensive line is still pretty rough. Hopefully they're able to do some things in the offseason to fix that, or at least get it to closer to average as opposed to just abysmal. But I think as long as I can give the second, I think the target share and that type of thing will be enough to make it worthwhile. I just think this offense caps his ceiling to where I don't know, we talked about him being, wide receiver 8 in 2021. I just don't know that we're ever going to see the wide receiver 1 range again, unless there's some like drastic change for him, either being on a new team or a drastic change for the Steelers. So I'm in for a second. I'm not in for a first.
Yes, I like the late first because I like the upside of the production there. Again, I'm with you, Gary. I'd love to get the high second if possible, because you're not getting him for a late second. That's just out the window.
No.
Let's get a couple seconds. But the Steelers are in a good position to kind of do all the things we want them to do. They have a rookie running back. They have a rookie wide receiver. Their wide receiver 2 is a rookie. So they have no money tied up in that offense. Pat Freiermuth is still on a rookie deal. So that's the best position for an NFL team to have these rookie quarterbacks to start building their offense and team into a more juggernaut before they have to pay that quarterback. So I do feel confident that the GM in Pittsburgh should be able to put a team together to make them look better offensively, knowing that if the team's going to go anywhere, it's going to have to be on Kenny Pickett's shoulders, or if not, use Najee Harris even more. But all of those both means beefing up that offensive line and making it better. So you have to expect the Steelers to go into this offseason looking to do just that, because the defense was already good. So they have to beef off the offensive line because they don't have a lot of holes elsewhere on that offense. Maybe like I said, draft another receiver. So I think this is the time to buy. And I feel the same way about Kenny Pickett and Superflex. When you see these Superflex startups, Kenny Pickett's going so late. It's crazy when you get these young quarterbacks that late. That's such a great value, getting him. And same thing with Najee Harris. Najee Harris saw a dip. I think this whole offense right now is a value in Pittsburgh outside of George Pickens, because George Pickens, with all the hype that he's got in the community, he's probably a little bit too rich for my blood. And I love George Pickens, like love him to death, but he's probably a little bit too rich. I think the real value in Pittsburgh is everything outside of George Pickens, and that's Diontae Johnson, Najee Harris, and Kenny Pickett.